Hey, hello, Tyler Bryden here. I hope you're having an amazing day. Usually I create videos, I got some sort of search engine optimization. I'm trying to create a title on something that I might believe is trending and pick up some traction. Today I've got a little bit of I wouldn't call it a rant, but I would call it just sort of this thesis that I'm building. And that thesis is around why marketers aren't yet fully relying on AI generated content. And I spent some time on the weekend, like many of us do, watching some videos, some great ones that I can recommend. Emad from Stability AI, a great interview at Transform with Scale AI with Sam Altman here, who's the CEO of OpenAI. Another one with Emad, actually one more with Emad here. And then this was actually sort of an interesting video about one-click blog writing. And again, sort of what this brought me back to is thinking about all these posts that I've been seeing recently, and I'll see if I can find some and link them, where people are talking about how they're using ChatGPT to create content brief, headlines, ideas, frequently asked questions, all these like related tasks. And what's really interesting is that they sort of dilly-dally around the fact that they're doing all of this, and then with the human intervention creating that final content. At least this is what is being said. And what they're skirting around the fact is that they're very close to using these engines to fully create content. And what I sort of had a belief around here is that there's four main blockers to why they're not just doing this outright. And so I think I'll go in order here, just to see why are we not seeing people rely on these engines for the full content creation process from conception to publishing. Right now, they're coming up with the ideas, they're getting an article brief and then writing it. But I think this shift, my prediction is this shift will happen if these blockers are eliminated. And so the first one is, I guess I could zoom in a little on this, is that SEO marketers don't believe that AI-generated content can rank in top positions on Google, especially in competitive niches. And so there is talk about, this idea that people are building a sort of content on their site, maybe with these engines that is not their main high priority, but pad the website with content so that search engines can understand. But generally, if you are to want to go super, high quality, high ranking, top positions on Google, that SEOs and marketers don't believe that AI generated content is capable of that. Now, I will say I've seen some indicators that this is not true. I don't know how long that happens for. I don't know how long that remains before, user behavior on the page sort of indicates it's not quality content, or these search engines then detect that it is AI generated content and then penalize that page and maybe even the entire site. And that leads to point two, which is they don't want to be penalized by search engines for creating AI generated content, which I need to, dive deeper into this, but, does it explicitly go against the terms of service? I believe there is, some video sort of presentations by Google on this and some written pieces. So I'll link that below. But, most people know that this kind of AI generated content, or what used to be content rewriting, which was very sort of, if this word is this, exchange it with this synonym, and if this phrase is this, exchange it with this phrase that means the same thing. A very much more sort of archaic version of what we're seeing with these sort of engines. And when I refer to these engines, I do have the links here. We've obviously got Jasper, which is one of the leading ones built on top of OpenAI. We've got Writer.com, we've got Copy.ai, we've got OpenAI itself, and then ChatGPT, which is sort of a different interaction layer with this. All these are links. You can check them out. There's many more that have already emerged, are emerging. There's a ton of funding going in this space. It's probably the hottest space this year in 2023. And, so they're relying on these engines, but there's fear, and that fear of being penalized, pages not ranked or being blocked, or entire websites being wiped out, and even that having consequences for you as sort of a, IP address or Google account. I think if someone thinks, hey, maybe if I do this and I get caught and penalized, this is going to affect my status to do other work moving forward. So that's a huge fear if you're basically, barred from participating in a skill set that you have. And I don't know if that's full, like, I don't know if that's true fear of something can actually happen, but, there's been, sort of black hat sort of behavior with websites, and then throughout links to other websites, all of persons or a company's properties have been destroyed. So it's not completely, unprecedented that connections leveraged between sort of sites and people can all be disrupted by participating in, service or, activities that go against the terms of service. Now, if I jump on to point 3, sort of talk about this overall risk of information and content quality that can lead. I think one is brand tarnishing, straight up just misinformation or, content that is not appropriate. I've done, in a small example of this, for example, is like, I've done some prompts where there's been links. I've asked, hey, can you include some links to references in there? And it would link to 404s. It would link to competitors. So that's one thing that could happen. I think just generally the misinformation or giving wrong answers is something. And so this level of human oversight in the current state is required. And then just generally, if the quality is not that good, the structure is not that good, it's going to be a relatively maybe poor conversion path that is built. And obviously, generally, and I'll make this point a little bit lower, the conversion is the incentive for most marketers, creators, writers who are doing this work, especially with an organizational context and not, for creative personal endeavors. And as I jump to, point 4, there are negative societal and cultural connotations to relying on AI for content creation. So to me right now, the sort of thought process is, first of all, it's not good enough quality, but but it goes beyond that. It's not valid. It's not pure. It's not ethical. We've heard Jason Calacanakis interestingly talked about it on a recent, sort of podcast about derivative AI or degenerative AI, which is really, it's, an advanced sort of plagiarism that scraped the entire web and is now creating, an array of words that put together are original, but are generally just scraped from other data sources. And so it's a plagiarizer. And so that's, for those reasons, along with just the ethics of scraping other information online and people's work, a lot of concerns ethically, and I think very rightfully so. But generally, there's a negative connotation, negative perspective of people or companies who would rely on this. And so, in that instance, these are sort of 4 blockers that build that I sort of argue that if removed, I believe, and I'm being selective with my words here, but like a large percentage of marketers and SEOs would use these engines for the entire process. And that's from, idea to the actual publishing directly on the site. And they would do that with little to no human intervention. And I think this is relatively being done already, I would say, is that just people are relying on content farms, often paying suboptimal wages to these writers, many of them which are outsourced, and to create content that I sort of argue is just slightly above the quality threshold to rank on search engines. And so when we think of that, the main objective here is already being done. It's just being done by humans, but only because it doesn't get blocked by number 2, number 1, number 3, and number 4. Okay, so good. There are some negative connotations around hiring and, paying poor wages. And we're seeing this at a larger scale in media companies that, even things like New York Times and things like that, where it's just a army of people typing all day. And, we're seeing people trying to overcome, I would say specifically point 2 right now, which then helps them jump over these other parts, which is, hey, they're going to do a first draft in these engines, and then they're going to get another engine, or maybe the same engine, to rewrite that content so they can get past the AI-generated content detection in point 2, because they don't want to get penalized by search engines. And then I think they can, with a little bit of human oversight, can also jump over point 1 about the quality to rank in competitive niches, and then also jump over the ethical or pure test that is emerging from this. And, at a core level, what my thought process around this is that a lot of us are creating not because we want to create, but because we have to create. And I know as someone who not only creates just personally because I like to, but also because I have a company that I'm trying to market and have more people sort of find out about and use, that the desire, or not the desire, the force that compels me to create content and our team to create is significant. And the reason is that search engines, they reward consistent, constant, fresh content. Obviously, it needs to be quality, but the pace that you do that at is, quite significant. And I would say that companies who don't have the resources, I would say big companies or venture-backed companies who can afford to hire all these writers and do all this, all of a sudden have this tool and technology at their hand that can help them match the performance of, or at least the output quantity of, large venture capital funded teams or big companies with, a few lines of code, some prompts, some Zapier integrations, or whatever it is to make this happen. And if you are feeling like you're behind already because you don't have the resources, the budget, the incentive to then rely on these technologies just increases further. And so, we are seeing already, creators, people who are, even starting for a creative endeavor or personal endeavor, starting to get burnt out by trying to publish at the rapid clip that is demanded by these sort of platforms, whether it's, again, YouTube or Google or even TikTok and Instagram. And this kind of content is rewarded by the algorithms of that system. So they're getting burnt out trying to create, and maybe those are personal endeavors that they're doing, but maybe they're also, their personal endeavors like that pay for their life. They pay for it to sustain. And so, I think where this is headed is that if we look at the exponential pace of improvement in these 4 blockers are eliminated that I've put up here, we'll see just a tsunami of automated creation that, again, does not just displace these content farms, these outsourced content farms. They actually displace quality creators. And it comes back to that truth that a lot of us are creating not because we want to create, but because we have to create. And I actually shared this as a post on LinkedIn, and I'm not getting too much feedback on it because it sort of supports this rant endeavor that I'm sort of talking about. But I got a nice comment from a friend and responded to that comment, and there was an interesting post that I'll also share if I can duplicate this. I'll pull this off the screen from one of the writers at or not one of the writers, but one of the team members at Writer, which is one of these companies. And so it sort of just happened at the exact same time that I had sort of put this post out and talked about eight generative questions that are coming to CMOs in the boardroom. And, here's the questions that are coming. So is the hype real? Sort of talking about, I'll share this as a link. How can we use it right now? The biggest use cases are, I'll get that out of the way. The biggest use cases are creating content, marketing, support, sales. So that's already happening. We already know that's happening right now. How should we incorporate it? How will it affect our customers? How can we do more with less, especially in this recession environment where people are getting laid off? How can we, rely more on technology? So that's another force that is driving this forward. Asking about the risks, and that was something that I sort of talked about, the fact checking, the misinformation, the brand tarnishing that could happen. How do we train our organization to be able to use this technology? So that's another question and force that is going to be driving in 2023. And then, are our competitors using it? And hell yeah, your competitors are using it. If we look even at Jasper on the company's 100,000 marketers, these are not small companies using this. Google themselves are using it, and even though they might have content that goes against their terms of service, it doesn't really matter when you control it all. So I just wanted to sort of wrap up because I had this sort of point that came back from my friend who commented on it, who said they shouldn't, marketers shouldn't be just copying and pasting this. And what I sort of responded is like, and first of all, I would love to hear your thoughts if you have it, is that generally marketers put into a job role, they don't care about the content they're creating. Maybe they're lucky enough to have that alignment, but they're being incentivized to drive impressions, clicks, conversions. And my friend's company is called Rocket VR Health. Shout out Nick. But if you could successfully acquire customers and build an amazing business at Rocket VR Health without paying a bunch of marketers and writers to create that content, I'm guessing you would. Why would you not? We're forced to do this to drive demand, to drive business, to make sure that we can grow our businesses. And so it's a force that is almost too big to be reckoned with. And, while in the current state, some of the quality that comes from these engines doesn't accommodate that, and lots of use cases or sort of prompts where it breaks down or doesn't have the relevant information or links to 404, all of this stuff, then it doesn't work in the current state, but it's going to continue at a rapid speed. Sam Altman in that interview talks about how humans struggle to build mental models around around exponentials. And I believe that too. I think it's very hard for us to fathom. When I've been following this space for a long time, and I have these sort of shitty prototypes that I had been building. And even then working pretty deeply into it, hacking things away, I did not expect this to happen at such a high speed. And Emad from Stability AI is a great visionary around how quickly this is happening, along with Sam. And Sam doesn't like to make time-based predictions, but Emad will. And that's super interesting. So moving forward, it might not make sense for marketers to even create themselves, because it's just the time versus benefit versus risk versus reward just doesn't add up anymore. And more weight, what I sort of put here, is that will be put onto prompt engineering and deciding what content to create. But at some point, SEMrush, Ahrefs, and other tools will integrate these engines to enable the competitive analysis, the research, the content ideas, all the way to the publishing, and then I sort of argue even optimization post-publishing. So once your page is live, a great example of a tool that sort of does this already is like Surfer SEO. I love them. Is like it says, hey, 1 sec, I'm trying to move this over. If I can, here we go, you're there. Is like once your page is live, it gives you ways that you should improve that page with other keywords and blah, blah, blah. If this engine can detect it, then it should be able to automatically rewrite it, and it's already hooked in Jasper and stuff. So all of this is coming. And then I ask, when that happens, what roles do marketers, what role do creators play? And that role, I'm guessing, is going to diminish on the very intense side, disappear. So then what does that leave us to do? So I think I might be over dramatizing here, but that's why I'm sharing this video. And I'm also looking for perspectives. I'm also following the space, pretty nicely connected to a lot of people who are driving the innovation in this space. And they know things that we don't know, and the way that they're talking and looking at the future is operating out of a paradigm that I still think is ahead of many of ours. And if we don't understand the paradigm, if they're operating, say, even 6 months into the future, Emad talks about real-time generative experiences, not just with text, but with audio and video, where we're rendering environments, rendering environments in front of ourselves. Then even that, why would we need marketers and creators to create objective content when we can render environments ourselves to be completely conducive and personalized to ours? And I think that's a stretch. I think we always are going to want to have content created by others that we consume. But one of his, Emad's interesting arguments is that it feels better to create than consume. These tools allow us to do that. And if we can head towards a space where we're all capable of creating personalized things that just resonate with us deeply, the desire to interact with more sort of objective, sort of content that marketers and creators are creating may at least have some impact there. So that is my video on, why marketers don't yet fully rely on AI generated content. I'm not sure if that's the right title. I'm sort of workshopping this, but I would love to hear your thoughts. I know I probably sound a little fired up in this. I had a lot of sort of intersections of things happen at once to sort of drive this thought process, and then me wanting to share this video. And I hope that it's, worthwhile. I do think, there's some huge shifts coming right now that I'm going to create some more content on. Microsoft buying, it looks like maybe a 49% stake in OpenAI, integrating it directly into Bing, but also into Word, Outlook, all of these systems. So huge distribution instantly as they figured out the mechanisms to pull it, and interaction layer that we have. And I'm talking to people who I would never expect, who know I work a little bit in this space, and talking about how they're using ChatGPT and all this stuff. It's just mind-blowing, the speed that it's moving at and how people are feeling about it in the adoption layer. And that's why I'm sort of passionately creating and talking about it myself. I actually feel like I want to create. I don't have to, but I have felt that pressure many times already, just the having and wanting to publish on a consistent basis. I think that's a push for us all, whether personally or professionally, and would love to hear what you think. Hope you have amazing rest of your day, and look forward to reconnecting soon. Bye-bye.